Hello, my friends. My name is TheFreind, and welcome to yet another Talented Overexplained video. This time we're going to be talking about Malthael. Why? I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Tyrell, and I feel, I really like the Angel, so I'm going to be going over Malthael now. So basically, R is going to be what's left, and Bob's your uncle. Anyways, Malthael, why do we care about him? The Reaper of Death here is all about dealing massive amounts of percentage-based damage. Any tanky team that fights Malthael is basically going to suffer. However, he also has other qualities. He has some of the best minion wave clear in the game, some of the best mercenary camp clear speed, and he's very healthy when he does it. He can do it from minute one. He's extremely fast. He on double rotations, he's faster than any of the other hero actually, and he also presents a incredible amount of kill pressure onto an enemy. Whether it is through his ultimate or through a few talents, he can basically make it so that if there's one hyper carry, the odds of them saving that hyper carry decrease dramatically when Malthael is basically lurking in the shadows. So, without further ado, let's get started with his abilities and then we'll talk about his talents. So, the most important thing to know about Malthael is this trait. When you use aim, well, mostly it's your basic text. Whenever you hit something, you apply this mark. It mostly comes from your auto text, and it also comes from your W and E. This was your ultimate, but to be honest, every time you hit them, you apply a mark, and it does 2% of their maximum health every second, 4 seconds. So if you touch ever so slightly any enemy, that is basically 8% health down the drain. Furthermore, targets that are marked by this are revealed, so that's actually pretty handy in terms of vision. You always get to see where they are. You never are guessing when you're finding a clone, for example. And stealth heroes, you can penetrate right through them. And of course, it de-stealths them because it's damage over time. It naturally does that, which is pretty cool. And the second part to this trait is that Malthael's attacks are not single target. They actually always cleave from level 1. You attack something, you hit everything in front of you. I think it's a 210-degree arc, just pretty handy. You need to maximize this trait on everything. As Malthael, your job is not so much to focus down one target. Your job in the team fight is to basically hover around, very gently touch an enemy, go to the next enemy, gently touch them, and then kind of just stalk them from the edges. And as soon as it expires, or right before it expires, you go back in so you can reapply the mark, so you can maximize and lengthen this damage. Malthael is very squishy. If you just end up brawling like, let's say, Imperius or Sunny, you are just gonna die. You need to act as this Grim Reaper at the very edge of your sight that is threatening your life. This is what you should be playing Malthael as, and Reaper's Mark really plays into that. It's a great trait, and your job as Malthael is to make sure everything gets Reaper marked. Let's talk about his Q. So this is entirely dependent on enemies having your trait mark on them. You press Q, everything around you that currently has your trait that's suffering damage from it, you get to suck out their soul. You deal 100 damage to them, and you heal for 25 per target hit. Plus, if you suck the soul from a hero, you get an additional healing based off 4% of their health. High health heroes, you get to heal more off of them compared to lower health heroes. This is your primary wave clear ability. You want to hit all the minions with your trait, obviously, so you're starting to deal damage, but then you're going to be hitting up the Qs so that you deal lots of damage to them. Very short cooldown, relatively cheap, but it's pretty easy to spam out, so you might low run on mana reserves, but still, you hit the minion waves, you basically put down 2 or so soul rips, and the thing is basically dead, because Malthael's right clicks are actually pretty good when it comes to clearing minion waves. One thing to know is that Soul Rip is an instant cast, no target ability. So you can hold down Q, and you'll cast it off cooldown every single time. I played Malthael for so long where I've been manually pressing Q. I don't know how I've never come to the realization, hey, you can just hold down Q, bro. And it does the job. So yeah, it's a simple ability. Use it off cooldown. You got anything that has a mark on it, you press Q. If you're about to apply your mark to something, I say wait half a second, apply the mark, then press Q right afterwards. Otherwise, you're waiting 2 seconds for another Q when you could be getting more value. Oh, another port. If you're a Malthael, you really want to fight enemy heroes in your lane in the middle of their wave. That is the most cost-efficient way of you doing it. Because one, you get to deal lots of damage to the mini wave just constantly, and 2, you're healing extra off of that. You're basically healing an extra 200 every single time you press Q, rather than just a single target, which makes Malthael much more difficult to beat in a sustained fight. That's all I have to say. Let's move on to W. If there's an enemy with your trait, you can teleport them with Rate Strike. Keep in mind, this will teleport you on the far side. So if Malthael is coming in from the left and you have your target to your right, you're going to teleport past them and then appear on the right side. Likewise, if Malthael is on the bottom, the target is at the top, you teleport through them, you appear on the other side at the top above them. So always remember that this makes you appear right behind them. Plus, it also refreshes Reaper's Mark. This is actually a pretty important note. If a target is starting to is starting to run out duration of Reaper's Mark, you can teleport to them with Rate Strike to reapply it. And then, yeah, that's one thing. Another thing, this puts your auto attack on cooldown. So if you ever try teleporting and then try to auto attack, it's not going to work because it intentionally puts your auto attack on cooldown. So what you really should be doing, since this is an instant cast ability, you teleport, you press Q, and then you immediately kind of like hover around them menacingly. You do not stop to auto attack because you need to wait either way. So you might as well get moving. And then, when that half second duration is over, you can stop to auto attack and start doing some damage. But you use Rate Strike to basically reapply the mark and then get yourself away. It's also very handy because it's a very strong repositioning tool. An instant teleport at a pretty good range makes you very slippery. So you can do some very nice juking from abilities. You can use minions to act as a getaway tool and all that jazz. So yeah. Alrighty, sorry about that. Let's talk about his E. Probably Malthael's most underwhelming ability. Up until now, we've been talking about his Q and the W, and all that's pretty nice. But it all depends on your targets being afflicted by the mark. And the only way you apply that is through your auto attacks. Your E here is your other way of applying it. You basically unleash a wave, it goes in a straight line. Whatever it hits, it gets a mark. Pretty nice. And that's about it. There is no added damage to it. Do not use this to kill a minion wave. I really don't recommend. If you can reach it with your auto attacks, use your auto attacks. It's completely free. It even deals more damage. There's nothing attached to that shroud. This is your last resort option to desperately try to hit a long range target, especially a hero. There is no other reason you should be using Death Shroud, to be honest. So use this as, okay, I failed my approach. I need to get in there somehow. Let me toss out the Shroud, see if it hits. That's basically all its purpose. As soon as you're able to get the mark on, Malthael becomes a much better hero in a team fight. If you cannot get the mark on, you're in trouble. So Death Shroud is basically your way to get in. And really, realistically speaking, that is its only purpose. So that is very underwhelming, but it is what it is. Malthael still needs a way to apply his mark, and it's a pretty balanced way of doing it, so it is what it is. Tormented Souls is first heroic, and let me tell you, this thing's pretty trash, I'm not gonna lie. It's a very short cooldown and low mana cost ability. Basically, as soon as you press the button, you create a massive wave around you that's continuously applying Reaper's Mark to everything around you. And when you cast the ability, you refresh the cooldown of Rage Strike. So you can teleport in, press R, teleport again, and all that jazz. It also refreshes it again upon expirations. However, since the cooldown of 5 seconds is very close to 4 duration, you really shouldn't be thinking about getting both initial and reset. What you really should be doing is you teleport in, and then depending on when you want that Rage Strike, that's when you pop the Tormented Souls. Realistically speaking, this is just an ability that gives you a second W, which is very sad. And there is an upgrade to this that I really wish could be different, but it is what it is. Last Rites. Now this is a good heroic, and you're going to be picking this up in basically every single game. It is a mid-range, I think it's a six range ability. So basically auto attack range for most ranged assassins. You apply a death mark on them, and after 2 seconds, you deal damage equal to half of their missing health. When a target is at a third of their health, that means they've lost 66% of their health. The remainder 33 will execute them. Guaranteed. It's a guaranteed kill. Last Rites is an amazing ultimate. This is very good. It basically puts the fear of death into the enemy team because they know if Malthael is in the area, he's got his ultimate, and he's going to be basically looking for somebody that goes low on health. Now, there's lots of ways to counter it. I'm afraid it's a 2-second delay before the mark basically does the strike. And not only that, it's percentage damage. Malthael pierces all armor with his percentage damage abilities, especially Last Rites. So it doesn't matter how beefy they are. If they go below the threshold, that's it. They're gone. You just need to make sure they don't get healed up or shielded up in that brief window. Or get stasis, or they get some sort of protection from the thieves. Oh man. Still, it's not too bad. You actually get a pretty good sense of timing. The 2 second grace period is actually pretty nice. I like to just pop it on, Last Rites on when the Medivh tries to use up his shield, because I know the protection bubble lasts for 1 second, and this is a 2 second delay. There are very few things that give protection longer than 2 seconds, so I apply as they're protected if they're low enough health, because I know, okay, you just blew your ability, try dodging this, and you're only going to have like a second to react to it. It is what it is. But another important thing to know is if anybody dies to Last Rites, or they die 1.5 seconds after they take the damage, you will progress a quest, and this reduces the cooldown of Last Rites by 5 seconds every future Last Rites. Pretty nice. So if you get kills after kills with Last Rites, it gets to a very short cooldown of 20 seconds at the end game. This is after 10 kills. When should you Last Rites for a kill? In the best world, you get a kill that you otherwise couldn't have with Last Rites. That's the best possible scenario. If you're in the early game where there's no objective in like the next minute, feel free to use Last Rites on somebody that's destined to die, just so you can get the quest. Aside from that, honestly, you probably should just hold on to the ability until you see a need to put it on, because putting it on to somebody that is going to die without the mark just so you can get the quest ends up meaning that you don't have the ultimate for the next minute, where you could have gotten a different kill where it actually could have done some value. And you secure target A by your team, and target B, now you're the one securing it. So yeah, it's kind of a knife's edge. It really depends on the prospects of the map and the team composition. Are we going to go into the late game? Okay, then getting the quest stack is actually pretty important, so let me try to work towards that. Otherwise, if the game's going to be like short or mid, you should probably consider holding it off until you actually kind of need it, or, the kill is kind of 50-50 chance. You're in the middle of the enemy team, there's the healer around. Maybe if you apply the Last Rites, you can burst down somebody fast enough with the rest of your team support. Okay, that's his abilities. Let's talk about his talents. Level 1, you've got some very good options. That's Reach. Increase the range of your W by 35%. This makes it extremely long. I actually like to pick up Death's Reach in games against very long-ranged assassins. It gives you basically chasing power. No matter how far they go, you can always teleport after them. And it also makes it very easy to make sure that you always have something to teleport to when you apply the marks on. Not a bad upgrade. It's not bad. I prefer the other options in most games, though. It's a very niche pick, but aside from that, I do appreciate it when I picked up. On a Pale Horse. This is one of the more unique talents in the game. Your mount is 20% faster than every other mount in the game. Now you move at 150% speed when mounted, compared to 130%. This gives you tremendous map ability. This lets you go anywhere you want in the game. You can double soak very long range, very big maps, no problem. Go up to top lane, go to mid lane, go to bot lane, wherever you want. You can easily slip into mercenary camps, and you can even take them at a later point, because once you're done with it, you'll be able to zoom straight back to the objective. So it lets you do some timing cheatings, which is something Malthael is actually pretty good at with On a Pale Horse. It lets him outspeed his opponents, and for every 5 seconds he saves, that's 5 seconds that he accumulates total. Now he's 10, 15, 20, 25 seconds ahead of his opponent. And then suddenly you can take a mercenary camp, and the enemy laner has literally no chance to respond, because you just did it much faster. You kill the minion waves faster, you kill the merc pretty fast, and you just move around pretty fast. This is a really good way of overwhelming your opponent. If it's a 4v4 stack, and then you have an offlaner to fight, On a Pale Horse gives you that edge. You don't really need 1v1 dueling power. Malthael is one of the strongest ones in that regard. But On a Pale Horse gives you complete freedom to take over the map. Very good talent. It's a very good option. Fear the Reaper is a free cost active ability on your hotbar. You press it, you get 25% speed for 4 seconds. And you can move through enemies. You just face right through them. Pretty cool. Not bad. If you thought Ragnaros's, small, his E, the speed up before he blows up, that's a 25% bonus speed for 1.5 seconds. So you get basically double that value off this talent on a 25-second cooldown. It's very handy when you enter a fight. You can use it to basically reposition. I would recommend it when you're chasing after a kill, or you need to get out of a situation. It also makes Malthael much harder to gank, because 25% on-command movement speed allows him to very easily it's almost mount speed. You're able to nimbly dodge a lot of skills and the enemy, so you can get away. Pretty bad. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Pros really like it. I think it's kind of okay. I prefer the map ability of Untitled Force in most games, but Fear the Reaper definitely earns a good spot and my respect. Level 4, also very good options. Die Alone. If you hit 1 Q on one enemy hero, it's going to deal 50% more damage. Now, you don't need to have only one enemy hero marked by your trait, so long as your Q is only hitting one enemy and you've got other heroes but they're further away, it still applies the damage. And this is a massive damage increase, because 100 damage over 2 seconds is basically, yeah, that's insane. You'll be shocked. You will kick out every single opponent in the game without question, very easily with Die Alone. It gives you tremendous 1v1 potential. And not only that, you still get to take advantage of it in later fights, because there's a lot of opportunities for Malthael to basically skirmish on his own, in the periphery of a fight, so that you can take advantage of Die Alone. Very good talent. I pick it up when I desperately need more, 1v1 potential, and I don't need the other options, like throwing shade. Your E is a pretty bad skill, all things considered, but throwing shade actually makes it pretty decent. You increase the range by 33%, you reduce the cooldown from 8 to 5 seconds, and you reduce the mana cost from 50 to 30. Also, you deal a bonus 2% damage on initial contact based off their maximum health on all the enemies you hit. Cool. Just solid ability, actually. This basically doubles your E's in terms of cooldown, and it also dramatically increases the range, which makes it much easier for Malthael to actually hit a target at range. So this is a very good way of, if you can't get into a fight, throwing shade gives you multiple easy ways to try to fish away. Eventually, you're going to hit one of these E's, and then you can jump in and then go from there. I like to combo it with Death's Reach in long-range ranged assassin games. You got the range from E, and now your W is long enough to reach the same target, so you can teleport across an entire lane to get to your opponent. It's pretty nice. I also like picking up throwing shade if for some reason I'm going to lose my marks or I need to reposition, because by giving me another independent way of applying a mark at range, it lets me keep trying, so to say. It's a very good talent. I like this a lot. Black Harvest. A lot of players think this is trash. I think it's actually pretty good, but I'm not gonna lie, it is also trash because it's a do nothing quest for 3 minutes. So long, for every second that you have a Reaper's mark on an enemy hero, you will progress 1 second towards this. You afflict enemy heroes for a total of 3 minutes, whether it's one target or multiple targets, all contributing towards it. Eventually, you'll complete it, and then the reward is pretty substantial. And your Reaper's mark now is 6 seconds rather than 4 in terms of duration. Now, on surface, that's pretty good. Hey, 50% bonus damage, basically. But another cool part about it is by making your trait 6 seconds and your right strike being 5 seconds, and it also reapplies it when you teleport, you can keep an enemy permanently marked by your trait with right strike alone. You don't ever have to touch them. You just continuously teleport to them and again and again. And if you don't get interrupted, you can never escape Malthael. He's always on you because he just teleports after you. So Black Harvest gives you substantial amounts of power when it comes to your W build, or if you're trying to, spec into trait. But there is a very big caveat, and that it requires you to fight heroes for a very lengthy amount of time. And even if you spend all game trying to do it, you might not even complete the quest. What a shame. I wish this was maybe, I don't know, 150 seconds duration. I think it would be a lot more popular as a talent choice, because it's a very strong effect. It just does nothing until you get it completed. And Malthael, he's not very good at fights. Let's be real here. He much prefers clearing minion waves because it's guaranteed, it's easy, he does it fast, and he even rotates quicker than other heroes as well, which makes it easier for him. So fighting heroes, you only do that when you have your heroic available, or, your team desperately needs you around the objective. So Black Harvest is just anti-synergistic with Malthael's playstyle, habits, but is very good in terms of his results if he gets it complete. Die alone in 1v1s, throwing shade if you need range or you're fighting ranged heroes, or if you got planned to reapply marks. And Black Harvest if you plan to do a bunch of W. If the fights last really long, Black Harvest just has lots of value. Where you don't really need these others, but this just gives you lots of value. Level 7 has 2 options, really. Cold Hand, your Q now slows enemies for 20%, for 2.5 seconds. You basically become a Jaina. Nice. I think this is a bad talent. I don't know. Yeah, very good. These two talents are so much stronger, and that I feel very underwhelmed that you just get 20% slow. And although it is nice, a lot of times your team probably has a source of slowing, and then whichever slow is strongest overrides weaker ones. 20% is bottom of the barrel. There are so many slows that are 25, 30, 40, etc., where those will just override this. You get no value off of it. It's and the problem with it, realistically speaking, is you're taking it away from Massacre. If this was a town that came sooner, it would be a lot better, but it doesn't, and it comes at level 7, which is a pretty important level for Malthael. If you're not getting damage at level 7 and you get something kind of weak like this is kind of embarrassing. A lot of heroes get stronger power-ups than this, so Cold Hand, I don't like it. Even if I go Tormented Souls with the Ana boost, I still don't like it, to be honest. But Massacre, oh my goodness, this is exactly what you need as Malthael. So, you know how you teleport, and then you can't auto-attack. It's super awkward, right? So when you teleport deep into an enemy team, you only have one target that's being marked. So when you try to Q, you get minimal amounts of healing. It's basically as bad of a situation as you can get, and you're about to get focus fired pretty hard. Massacre, when you teleport, you damage everything around it, and you apply Reaper's Mark to it. Whoa, that's cool. It's an instant cast Reaper's Mark on everything around it. Quite literally, it is Tormented Souls, but better. I'm not even kidding. It is better than your Tormented Souls. And you put this on the level 7 talent. By making it instant cast, you just apply the mark and then you immediately get out of it. Because you did the most important thing as Malthael. You put down your mark on all the enemy heroes. That's the only thing you should be doing in a fight. And you need to keep yourself alive for long enough so that you can keep reapplying that mark. Massacre does exactly what you needed to do. And not only that, by applying the mark to them, you can Q them for extra damage, and you can Q them for extra healing as well, which increases your survivability. Plus, I like Massacre because you can use it on mini waves very quickly. If you have a massive mini wave, you just click on something kind of close to the center, and then you press Massacre. It applies it in a circular radius rather than arc of 210 degrees, which is actually pretty big, by the way. The Massacre hits for a very long range. You can almost get the entire wave, and then you can immediately press Q. It's a near instant way to apply your trait to the whole minion wave, and you do it at a cost of 30 mana plus 59 damage, as opposed to 50 mana and 0 damage from the Shroud. It makes you better in fights, substantially better in fights. It's basically a heroic ability, and it helps your wave clear and mercenary camp clear speed. Massacre also has future synergy with a very important level 16 talent. More on that later. I really can't stress this enough. If you don't pick Massacre, you're not playing Malthael. And if you pick Massacre, you're going to be having a great time. However, I have to give some honorable mentions. Touch of Death here. This is another activatable ability, just like Fear the Reaper. You press Touch of Death. All enemy heroes that have your mark will get 50% reduced healing for 4 seconds. When it comes to fighting really important targets, let's say Cho'Gall or Bruisers or, I don't know, a very tough frontline that has lots of healing, Touch of Death makes them evaporate fast. And it really accelerates. Malthael is very good at focus firing a target thanks to its ultimate, but Touch of Death is a second way of doing that. By preventing healing going their way, not only are you reducing the enemy hero's output to them by 50%, period, you also reduce their own self-healing. And that self-healing is actually a very important consideration. It tremendously increases the odds that whoever it is you're focus firing, they're not going to get the healing they need. They just die much quicker. And it also reduces the chance that somebody can pull off a clutch heal onto Last Rites, because the only thing stopping you is that a hero gets a sudden surge of healing before the mark deals damage. Because, again, this is based off missing health. For every 1% health they heal, you are dealing 2% less damage. Kind of makes sense, yeah? So you need to watch out for that. Touch of Death reduces that speed dramatically. But the big kicker here is that you don't have Massacre. And if Massacre could be combined with Touch of Death, this would be a glorious combo. But no. So, single target focus fire, like, let's say, a raid boss, Imperius, Tyrael, Cho'Gall, I don't know, Alex Straza and Lily, where you have very predictable, strong single target healing. The Touch of Death is very good at making sure they die. And it's a 20-second cooldown, completely free, super easy to apply on everything you fight. So you always have it available. Just gives them so much more lethality. Level 10, why would you pick these ultimates? Tormented Souls if I'm playing with an Ana. That's it. That's the only reason I played Tormented Souls, because your Q suddenly becomes super damaging and has basically a 1 second cooldown, and you're healing all the while thanks to that bonus damage. Tormented Souls makes sure that you always have the mark on your enemies so that you can continuously press Q. You have no reason to play Tormented Souls. The other reason is maybe you really are fighting the beefiest enemy team in existence, and you'd actually appreciate having your mark on the whole enemy team all the time. And the extra W's is pretty nice because it synergizes with the level 16 talent mortality. So if the whole enemy team is beefy, Tormented Souls, okay, that's fine. Otherwise, I pick up Last Rites in every other game. If it's a balanced composition, if it's I don't know, a ranged assassin composition, you still pick up Last Rites. This is something you always do. Malthael has kind of low damage. It just has strong healing and very strong, DOT, so lots of heroes just run away from you. You have very little ways to execute them. Last Rites is how you execute them. Again, I've talked all about it. You can go back and see what I had in store for it, but you want Last Rites in most games. Level 13, you have a few good options. Soul Siphon increases the bonus healing you get off of heroes to 4.75%. That's kind of okay. If you're fighting very beefy teams, kind of like in the situation you pick up Tormented Souls, this is not bad, but I think this is pretty underwhelming. Not even a percentage point increase in terms of your healing is not really something I'll be fancying myself to. Because let's say you're healing off a 4,000 health hero at this point in the game, level 13. You're only getting an extra 30 health off of your Q. And that's not good enough for me. And, obviously you're hitting multiple heroes, but if you're hitting multiple heroes, they're not all going to be super beefy and tanky. That's like an extra 20, 15, 30, that's about it, really. I'm not super impressed by Soul Siphon. I picked up when the damage output of the enemy team is so low and their health is so high that this covers the difference, That's the only reason. Your other options, though, are much better. Ethereal existence. For every enemy hero you apply the mark to, you're going to get yourself 10 armor, and this stacks up to 30 armor. Pretty good. Very solid. There's lots of situations where you'll be using this. On principle, it is pretty good compared to spell armor because, hey, tower shots, boss hits, minions, and lots of auto attacks. Everybody does auto attacks. You're getting yourself free armor for no cost at all. Not bad. So if you're fighting, if the primary damage source of the enemy team is physical, you pick up Ethereal Existence. This is a pretty simple talent. Inevitable End, though, is very strange. Another activatable ability. We're seeing a lot of, we're seeing a pattern here. You activate this, you become unstoppable for 2 seconds. But you remove all of your current Reaper's marks before you press the button. So when you press this, you need to say goodbye to all the marks you had, which makes it kind of tricky to use. My tips in using it is you teleport in. You want to teleport in with your W. And then after that, you press Inevitable End. If you do it beforehand, you remove the mark, you can no longer teleport to them. So you basically waste your chance. It's impossible to do that. But after you teleport, now's the time you put Inevitable End. You're already in. You don't care about the mark. You're about to reapply it with your auto attack or E. Also, you're probably going to get some a lot of damage coming your way, so the Unstoppable is pretty handy in that regard. Inevitable End also combos very well with Tormented Souls. As soon as you teleport in, your R is still going. It's still reapplying them. So even though you technically purged your current marks, it's a one-time thing. Just a one-time thing. That's it. The rest, though, every future application, especially when you're still unstoppable, oh, no problem. Keep going. I like to combo Inevitable End with Throwing Shade because, hey, now that it's kind of hard to maintain my marks, especially when it's counter synergistic with Black Harvest, 6 seconds, that goes down the drain. Throwing Shade allows you to reapply it after you become unstoppable, which is very handy. Also, another trick you could do, Unstoppable, and then right before your E hits the target, actually, no, I'm sorry. You throw out your Shade, and then you Unstoppable right before it hits them, because it still hasn't touched them, technically, and then when you teleport in, you're Unstoppable on teleport, and then you can drop down the Last Rites, guaranteed death. Pretty cool. But it takes a little bit of practice of getting used to. It is best used as probably a defensive tool, because when you're on the offense, you have to weigh in the possibility. Do I want to keep the marks on, or do I want to be unstoppable so I can get closer to do more damage in some other capacity, But when you're on the defense and you're trying to run away, it's an instant cast Unstoppable on a 20-second cooldown, completely free. Very, very handy in getting Malthael away from trouble. especially when you combine it with Fear the Reaper or On a Pale Horse. He's kind of hard to chase and kill. So yeah, nice. Shroud of Wisdom. After 2 seconds, you gain 50 spell armor for 4 seconds. This is also another activatable ability. You want to use this preemptively. You have a plan, you want to go in, and that's when you press Shroud of Wisdom, because the 2 seconds is very long, actually. And then after you teleport in, you'll have the spell armor ready to go. It's put up. So realistically speaking, it's pretty easy. Hell, you can even teleport in and then use Shroud of Wisdom afterwards. I wouldn't recommend that, but I would say toss out your shade, immediately press your Shroud of Wisdom. When you're ready to go in, you go in, and that's it. Or you can do it 1 second before it is pulled up, because most enemy teams have a reaction speed of half a second. That's just optimizing it to be a little bit longer in duration. But I really am digressing. Shroud of Wisdom is pretty useful. I actually really like this a lot into lots of teams. There's a lot of spell damage. Tanks have a lot of spell damage. Mages, obviously. Hell, even right clickers have decent spell damage. Healers have spell damage. All these heroes basically apply a lot of damage to you. By giving yourself armor, you're making your healing go further, because you heal for 100%, they deal 50% damage. So, pretty good. Yeah, level 13 is very much defensive. It's pretty obvious when you pick these. You go Soul Siphon, big health, armor, Unstoppable for CC, Shroud of Wisdom for spell damage. It's really as straightforward as they get. Level 16, we have some very good options. Soul Collector. Reduce the cooldown of your Q by half a second, and you increase its range by 25%. Not bad at all. You reduce the cooldown by 25%, and you also increase its range. What's there not to like? If you're playing with Ana, you pick up Soul Collector. Aside from that, you desperately need Die Alone for this to be pretty good. And hey, you technically can do it with Soul Siphon, but I still don't think that talent's any good, even with Soul Collector. I feel like you just lose out so much potential compared to the other talents. But either way, technically not a bad choice. If you want like strong, flat damage Q 1v1 situations, Soul Collector is actually pretty good. Because Die Alone is just such a good talent, it makes your Q substantially better. It really increases your wave clear speed, because again, 25% lower cooldown, it means you're basically cleaving it like wheat in a field. It's very good. But I don't pick it up that often, because I much prefer the power of mortality. Taste your mortality. Now, when you go with Massacre at level 7, mortality becomes a complete monstrosity, because when you teleport to a hero, you will deal 8% of that hero's maximum health with the teleport. But, Massacre says we hit everything around the target. Does this also apply mortality? Yes, it does. And that's why that talent is even better than it has any right to be. You can't do this with Tormented Souls, but you can do this with a level 7 talent. You teleport in, you instantly apply 8% health to the entire enemy team, plus another 8% from your trait. You literally touched them for a millisecond, and you already chipped away 16% of the enemy's team's health over a course of 4 seconds. And with a cooldown of 5 on your W, you're going to be coming back in for round 2. You pick this up with Black Harvest, you make it even worse. It's 22% of their health. And you're coming in for another time, and they can't stop the next W coming in, especially to pick up Last Rites. This is the combo that I really enjoy with Malthael, and it really made me click. Okay, with Massacre and Mortality, I want to live as long as possible. But I don't want to be clicking them all the time, because my trade is dealing most of the damage either way. You teleport in, you apply the mark, you immediately scurry away. It's kind of like Teleport Zeratul with his blink. But, a lot worse in a way, question mark. But you deal so much AoE team damage. It is monstrous. And you're slowly threatening them. You're stressing out the healer, because you're applying so much damage to the whole enemy team. You're making them much more brittle. They get hesitant. They don't want to engage your team because they're suffering so much damage. Remember, even though an enemy at 1% health can still deal 100% damage, an enemy team at 30% health is not going to engage a team at 100% health. So it's effectively as good as scoring a kill on the whole enemy team. So you can secure whatever objective or fort they're about to abandon, which is pretty good. So mortality increases your blanket damage tremendously. It increases your single target damage tremendously, to be honest. You pick this up against everything. Low health, mid health, high health, don't matter. Mortality is just so good. Whether it is with Touch of Death or Massacre, both talents very good in conjunction with Mortality, but especially Massacre. you'll really feel the power. You need to play with this and the Massacre combo to really feel the power of Malthael. And this is when he gets really strong, and you really should be looking for fights by yourself, because this is good. And unfortunately, Memento Mori is complete trash. Hey, your mark deals 6% damage if you reapply it. I don't know. Like, your trade lasts 4 seconds. The only way this deals bonus damage is if you manage to make it last longer by reapplying the trade on a single target. But I've run the numbers. Mortality is better than it, because this is effectively maybe, hey, you got an extra 2.4% from what would be extra damage. Hey, maybe it's on the whole enemy team. It don't matter. Mortality is quite literally 2.5 times better. It does 2.5 times more damage than Memento Mori. This is insane. And it's on an instant cast, very small requirement. Memento Mori requires you to reapply the trait or have Black Harvest enabled so you can deal something. And even then, I much prefer the instant 8%. You need to wait out, like, I don't know, 12 seconds worth before all that. So, yeah. there is no question. Mortality is the way, all the way. You always pick up mortality. Next up, level 20. Reaper of Souls. Increase Tormented Souls duration by 2 seconds. And while this is active, your takedowns refresh the duration. You think this would be good, but no, it's actually a trap talent. And I'm going to tell you why. Remember the added clause, hey, if the ability is reset, the cooldown of your Rage Strike is immediately refreshed. But not reset when it expires. This is the big downfall of Reaper of the Souls. I don't know why. But apparently, when you refresh it with your takedowns, it's not going to refresh your W's cooldown. You think, though, the Reaper of Death will actually have a chance to teleport around claiming the lives of people the level 20 town. But oh no, that's not what happens. It's a pretty lackluster ultimate, all things considered. But removing that and making that, kind of harder to control makes this worse. Oh my god, Reaper of Souls literally does nothing. It doesn't give you damage, it doesn't give you any bonus effects. It's just, hey, if you miraculously survived, longer than 4 seconds when you're a big angry Reaper that's, that has a big threatening aura and everybody focuses you, you get an extra 2 seconds. And hey, if you take down, that's another, 4 seconds of trait duration that you would have easily done with your everything else that you do. This has so much wasted potential. What this should have read is you get all the effects plus on kill or takedown, the cooldown of your W is also reset. This is what should have happened. But instead, we don't get that. And it makes me super sad. It is what it is. Reaper of Souls, you never pick. Angel of Death, though, kind of decent. And it's kind of... Last Rites now heals for 100% of the damage dealt. And all the cooldown reduction quests is doubled. So now you only need 5 heroes. So current progress, doubled. Future progress, also doubled. Not bad. Pretty good. Here's a special note. If you overkill a target with Angel of Death, you will still heal off of that. So let's say you plopped it down on 100 health Muradin that went Avatar. Yeah, it overkills it. But you still full healed, because the overheal, this is a rare thing. But Malthael's ultimate is the only ability in the whole game that a lifesteal effect can overheal whatever damage it dealt. So that's awesome. I actually quite like Angel of Death. When you're fighting very tanky teams, having a 20-second cooldown ultimate at minimum is very strong, and it full heals you. So you pull off a lot of menacing aura. If a tank dies, the next one will soon follow. And it makes Malthael very tricky to kill because he can pop it not as a way to kill, but as a way to heal. And it's a full heal. That's pretty decent. Angel of Death is kind of decent. However, I only picked up against teams with lots of durable tanks. Because realistically speaking, you want to pick up your other talents in such a case. Like Final Curtain. Final Curtain, when you toss out your E, now it leaves behind a Shroud. So it's not just your initial wave that does it. You have something that continuously applies Reaper Mark. And this also synergizes super well with Inevitable End, because that is a continuous reapplying of Reaper's Mark, by the way. Not bad. You can toss it out and lay a strip, and now all enemies that cross it, they're going to be applied with the marks. That makes them vulnerable to being teleported on. or you automatically have your Q on them, or it just makes your E a lot better of a ability. It's kind of a shame it's on the level 20 upgrade, but I'd be perfectly happy picking this up, especially in long range games where I'm poking all the time. Having a strip saying, "Oh, enemies, you can't go here, otherwise you get punished." It's pretty nice. It's not bad. Lo and behold, the last final upgrade is No One Can Stop Death. Activate while dead to immediately respawn, but you increase your next respawn timer by 25%. So at end game, you now have an 81-second death timer if you die after No One Can Stop Death. But still, this is not bad. Even though you're like, okay, why would I do this? Obviously, a second life is pretty cool and all that, just, but Malthael makes better use of it than other types of heroes because one, on a pale horse gives you speed. So you respawn at home, you'll be running back pretty fast, faster than anybody else, in fact. And two, even though you have increased duration on your death, but the next time you die, let's say you die, you respawn, and then later in the game you die again. By that time, this might be off cooldown again. And even though you're about to suffer an 80-second cooldown death, no problem. No one can stop death again. And you cheat death a third time. This allows Malthael to do a very special strategy. I call this basically the cruise missile playstyle. You don't jump into a team. If you see anybody that's low on health, you're going to be doing all your damage, obviously. But then you go deep, and then you last right to target, and you make sure they die. And if they die, great. It doesn't matter who it is, realistically speaking, because every enemy hero on the enemy team is very important to kill at level 20. The healer, the damage dealer, the tank, it don't matter who. The tank is probably the easiest to kill, though, so that's probably your target. And if you do, very good. But when you successfully secure the kill, you get to kill them, you get to respawn right away. And now your team is at a 5v4 advantage. You need to use No One Can Stop That aggressively. Not reactionary, aggressively. Because otherwise, if your team ends up dying and then you respawn, you're going to be the only one alive. And then maybe who is it you're fighting? Maybe 3 people, maybe 2, maybe 4? It becomes a lot harder to defend in a multi-man situation. Malthael prefers a 1v1 situation. So as soon as you have multiple heroes in the mix, kind of gets troublesome. It's not so problematic in team fights because your team is absorbing that kind of focus fire and attention, but Malthael is very squishy, and it is very easy for him to get blown up by multiple heroes. So it's kind of tricky to use No One Can Stop Death if your whole team dies and then suddenly it's up to you to defend, solo defend, which is very unlikely to succeed. But if you use this aggressively, in that you secure a kill and then you leverage it to secure an objective, a mercenary camp, or return to your team, you tell your team to back up, let me respawn, let me get back to you. Now we can force it at 5v4. That is good. That is good. It also prevents you from getting randomly sniped, but realistically speaking, that's a skill issue. You should know better than that and have better map awareness so that you don't randomly get picked off by yourself. You don't need a town to alleviate that. You just need better game sense. So yeah, that is Malthael. Why would you pick Malthael? Malthael complements a team that is struggling on macro. If they have any types of problem when it comes to macro potential, there is no better hero than Malthael because he can single-handedly take care of all of your macro needs by himself. In fact, the further away he is from any sort of team fight, the happier this guy is. It's pretty great, I'm not gonna lie. But he's better in terms of Zool. Zool can double clear, and he has the potential to destroy a fort. Malthael cannot destroy forts. He has a very troublesome time of doing it, but Malthael is a perfect double soaker. He clears mini waves, he clears bruiser camps faster than anybody else, and then it gives your team a map advantage through that. Another thing to keep in mind is Malthael gives you substantial amounts of kill potential onto whether it is the whole enemy team or just a single target, but especially a single target in 2 ways. Touch of Death, Mortality, Last Rites. Any of these combined, it gives Malthael significant amounts of kill potential. You pick up Malthael in games where you have a front tank, especially one that can hold their ground. Not the shifty types, you ideally want the tank to absorb damage. Not to distract, but to absorb damage that would otherwise go onto you, so that you let them take a little bit of damage, and then you teleport after them. And when you teleport after them, awesome. You're not taking the CC, the high damage abilities, and then you can just scurry along. And I really like picking up another thing I forgot. I like picking up on a pale horse with Last Rites because it lets me just stalk the enemy team on the periphery. Like I'm literally on my Grim Reaper horse. I'm just waiting for them to get low. I'm just waiting. It's so funny because it's oh my god. Like I say, put the fear in death. That's an omnipresent thing when it comes to Malthael. But when you put it on a pale horse, I've seen some very funny reactions that I wish I could clip and show you because it's happened a long time ago. But it really made me love the talent. Anyhow, I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Tanks, durable front lines that want to stay in the front line and take the damage, absorb the CC, absorb the damage. If you have healers that can give you long range healing, also very good. Battlefield tends to dive into the enemy team and then kind of stalk them on periphery. It's very challenging for your healer to follow up with them. So Malthael is very good in that he applies CC, he applies long range healing. Someone like Whitemane is also equally good. That's also another good option you can try. And yeah, he also works very well with most. Now he works well with any type of damage dealer. I'm not gonna lie. He just wants to fight bruisers. He wants tanks so that it makes it more likely for him to queue into a team that has high health heroes. Also plays very well with Greymane. Special mention to him because Cursed Bullet takes out 30% of 35% of their current health, so they're full health, lots of damage. If they're low health, no damage. So you chunk off 35% front, you deal a little bit of damage, and then you execute the remaining 33% thanks to Last Rites. It's a pretty good combo. All things considered, that's basically Malthael. Yeah. Alright, we'll see you guys next time.